morning. How is everyone doing this morning? I'm just getting back in town after a camping trip, or as I was corrected, a glamping trip. I didn't actually stay in a tent, but it was pretty rigorous and in the wilderness, and I felt like it was a great deal of nature and I really tested my outdoor skills. So just getting back in the routine, but I wanted to connect with you all this morning and talk about a few things. I'm going to make an orange cantaloupe, sweet potato, orange apple, ginger, turmeric juice as we talk. But this morning, the main purpose of this message is I want to offer encouragement to anyone who is standing on the outside of healing, looking in the window, maybe with some misconceptions or just some self-created notions of what healing looks like, that it has to be all or nothing. It's extremely hard to change your life. You have to make all of these huge changes and they have to be perfect and everything has to go just right, or it's not worth it and it's not going to work. So those things aren't necessarily true. Actually, when I started my healing journey, I started with really small changes. So I didn't understand really what was going on in my body. So educating myself and learning was number one. I wanted to know what was the dysfunction, what was the root cause going on in my body, and why I was sick. So for me, I just started educating myself. But as far as the foods that, and as a lot of you know through my story, I've healed myself and my autoimmune disease completely through food. I use a few supplements, but they're nutritional therapy supplements. They're not necessarily supplements that are going to do anything different in my body that food wouldn't already do. So when you're thinking about healing, it's easy to think that if you don't do everything perfect, or you're not making all these huge changes, it's not going to work. Or maybe, you're tuning into these videos and you see me juicing and you're like, well, I don't even want to get a juicer. Like the celery juice, I don't think I would like that. Can I make it in my blender? Yes, you can make it in your blender. And you think all these changes just aren't going to be feasible for you. So healing doesn't have to be hard. It can be easy, and it's definitely not an all or nothing lifestyle. So you don't have to be a perfect, or a healthy lifestyle isn't perfect. So I'll just talk to you a little bit about some of the things that I started with. So the first step that I did years ago is I started with eliminating gluten in my diet and dairy at the same time. And it was hard because, as you probably noticed, gluten and dairy are in everything. It's really hard to avoid. And I didn't quite understand like how these two foods were working against my health. And if you go to my blog, middaypigeon.com, there's a post about it, the truth on gluten and dairy. And unfortunately, if we have underlying pathogens in our body that are making us sick, in our intestinal tract and our sinuses, and for every one human cell in our body, we have 100 bacteria and 1,000 viruses. So a normal, healthy immune system can handle that pathogenic load and keep you healthy. But when you're autoimmune or chronically ill, or you have something going on in your body works a little bit differently. So when we're eating foods that aren't beneficial, like gluten, like dairy, then it's harder for our immune system, because not only is it working against all of the normal pathogenic load we have just by living in this world, it's also working against having to take care of the foods that are feeding these pathogens in our body. So that was my first step. I eliminated gluten and dairy, and it took a few weeks to finally, I don't have to be perfect. No, you don't. You can still heal in an imperfect diet. You can still heal your body slipping up, having cheats, not doing everything that I do, or not doing everything that someone in your family or your friend does. And a lot of my clients, it's so fun to see everyone is so different, and what one person needs to heal is not what the next person needs to heal. I was really, really sick, so a lot of the things I do are more regimented, more on one side of the spectrum, but sometimes just switching up, taking two things out of your diet, gluten and dairy, that's gonna alleviate the inflammation in your body enough for your immune system to catch up and take over, and your body not to have the load that it has currently. So that was one thing I did. And by eliminating those two foods, gluten and dairy, I felt really, really good. That was the biggest step for me for a long period of time. Unfortunately, I wasn't bringing in the right foods and addressing some of the underlying concerns for my illness. So that step didn't last. It didn't keep me well for longer than a couple years, but that was the first step and the most important. So if an elimination diet or looking at taking out foods that are possibly making you sick isn't something you're interested in right now, maybe we can look at foods that, bringing in the foods that are going to keep you well. So you don't want to have to, read labels and stress about what's in your food. And I totally understand. And if you're feeling all right, then maybe that's not something you need to do at this point. But to keep you well and to keep your inflammation low and your brain healthy and your body feeling really good, there's one thing that you can do is looking at the foods you can bring in. So what do you start your morning with? I think it's really common, and we're growing up, we start our mornings with cereal or granola bars or eggs or bacon. But the only thing with those foods are what is living in them and where are our nutrients coming from. So what if we swapped out our breakfast? Breakfast is the only thing we changed. And we did a smoothie. We did some greens, some spinach, mangoes, strawberries, wild blueberries, squeezed in a couple oranges or did orange juice. You could put honey, water, you can use coconut water, almond milk. What if we just, for the first thing of our day, sorry, these sweet potatoes are hard to get in the juicer sometimes, but they make this beautiful, I don't know if you can see, this beautiful orange juice that I'll show you at the end. So just changing our breakfast or looking at our morning routine. What if before we had our morning coffee, which I know a lot of people love, and coffee's not going to make or break your healing, trust me. I don't personally drink it because it's a little too harsh on me. I don't need a lot to get me excited and worked up and feeling energetic. So the coffee, it's not necessarily bad, but are you hydrating yourself before you're bringing in the coffee? Are you doing a living water, a lemon water, or a lime, or squeezing some fruit in some water? And then with that coffee, are you taking B vitamins? Because coffee it can be a little hard on your stomach, and it can take the B vitamins from you in your digestive tract. So are you replenishing those and making sure that you're getting other sources in and protecting that from if you're a coffee drinker? So as you can see, just in your morning routine, there are a lot of things that you can do to elevate your health and just invigorate yourself for the day. Hydrate in the morning, get yourself some living foods in, and just know that healing isn't all or nothing. If you don't want to make juices, you don't have to make juices. You can heal without juices. You can heal without supplements. You can heal without a perfect diet. You can do a lot of things working with just what you have. So we can look at taking foods out, or we can look at bringing foods in. What if, okay, so the mornings are really rushed for you and you don't want to focus on breakfast. You're like, I don't even eat breakfast, which is fine. Especially if you're an intermittent faster. Breakfast, you don't have to do anything. The only things I really do in the morning are my lemon water and my celery juice. And then I start drinking my juices more towards lunchtime or mid-morning. So what are you doing for your snacks? You could think, if you think of a lot of convenience foods or common snacks that we're eating, we're reaching for, protein bars, granola bars, things in packages. I get it, we're busy, that's really convenient, especially if you have kids. It's just, you're so busy, and that's the easiest thing for them to grab and go and eat in the car on the way to activities. So, but what if you cut up a fruit salad or rinsed off some grapes or threw some strawberries in a bag? What if your snacks, what if your one goal was just for your snacks to bring in some fruit? And fruit is best by itself. When we talk about fruit giving us high blood sugar, that's because we're usually bombarding our bloodstream with fat as well. We're doing, fruit with nut butter and nuts, or, we're eating something else with it. And that fat sits on top of the cell and doesn't so you've already eaten, so the insulin's gone in the cell, and the cell's like, feed me, I'm hungry. And then we eat something, a ton of sugar with a ton of fat, and the fat sits on top of the cell and has to be processed before the glucose can get in the cell. So that glucose is still in our bloodstream. That's why we're having high blood sugar. And we blame the fruit. It's not the fruit. So that's one of the thing to be mindful of. If we're eating fruit, just watch what we're eating it with. I would rather you do a ton more fruit and a little bit less fat and protein in your snacks than anything else, because our preferred source for our muscles and our bodies is glucose. And I eat fruit all day, every day. The time that I was the sickest in my life, I was cutting out fruit. I was like, I can't eat fruit. It's too high in sugar. I only did like berries here and there, or like 1 apple a day. Oh my gosh, now I juice a ton of apples a day. I'm eating fruit all day for snacks. I eat fruit before bed. I feel amazing. And I'll tell you, the fruit is not the problem. So don't have the fruit fear. And I'll talk more about that later in my blog. So look at your snacks and what can you bring in to help you feel energetic and help your body heal. Because one, don't underestimate the power of one. I mean, one orange. Oranges have a ton of vitamin C, and they're like living sunshine in your hand. And it sounds cheesy, but it's so true. You cannot eat an orange and not feel better after you eat an orange. So, or juice an orange, or squeeze one in your smoothie. Or, okay, say, everybody eats different. I kind of graze throughout the day, but a lot of people like, oh, I only have a few big meals a day, and that's fine too. So what are you doing in your meals? Are you doing mostly cooked foods and meats, like you're cooking your potatoes, you're cooking your rice, you're cooking grains, you're cooking meat? And you're cooking vegetables, which is great. I love that you're eating vegetables, but what are you doing as far as, are you including a living salad on the side? Like what if you just cut up some greens, you can put some fruit or some other vegetables on there, find a dressing you like. One dressing I really like to make is the juice of 2 lemons, and it's gonna sound crazy, but it's good, so trust me. The maple syrup, and put about, it's probably like, I'm trying to think, 2 parts lemon juice, 1 part maple syrup, and then black pepper, and you shake it up and it's like a vinaigrette. And if you're already having meat and you cook that in some oil and you sauteed other things in oil, it's best to, lighten up on the fats a little bit and do like a light vinaigrette. So that's why I like that dressing with the lemon juice and the maple syrup and the pepper, because it helps me get some more good sources of glucose, and it helps my living foods, my salads, taste really yummy. So for dinner, are you including a living source of plants there? Are you doing, any fresh salads, fresh fruits, fresh food? There's nothing wrong with cooking your food, but are we doing any living foods there as well? So as you can see, these small changes that you can make lead to really big shifts in your health. Even something like changing your snacks, changing up a salad at dinner, or before bedtime, are you doing a smoothie with a ton of greens and some living foods in there as well? And hydrate. Living water, pure maple syrup, or Mrs. Butterworth? Oh, that's a good question. So use pure maple syrup, organic when you can. Costco has like a really big, almost I think like half gallon of it. You can get it at Sprouts. Aldi has pure maple syrup, so make sure it's just maple syrup in the recipe. There is no additives, no sugar added, just the maple syrup. It's so good, it's all you will need. So to finish up this juice, tell you guys what I'm doing before, I'm adding in some ginger, and then I had some turmeric, it must have rolled away. I've got some more. And then some turmeric. And these 2 roots work synergistically together to lower inflammation. They are wonderful for if you're fighting off of a cold, a GI bug, or your tummy's not feeling very well, or if you're just feeling kind of tired and lacking energy. These turmeric and ginger, these 2 roots are awesome for the body and lowering inflammation. Or if you have a headache, hydrating with the juice and turmeric and ginger will be awesome for you. So I'm going to strain this, and then we'll kind of wrap up. So this is my favorite juice that I make. It's sweet potato, cantaloupe. So like 2 sweet potatoes, half of a cantaloupe, 2 apples, 2 oranges. Sometimes I'll do a grapefruit and take 1 or 2 of those away. And then turmeric and ginger. It's my absolute favorite. So wrapping up, what are some things that you can do, if you're not feeling comfortable with going all in and making a huge change and going cold turkey and changing everything in your health at once? I don't actually recommend that, because that's usually not sustainable, and that can be really anxiety provoking, especially if you're chronically ill and not feeling well. you probably have some anxiety or something on board that you already feel overwhelmed. There's already something lowering your vibration and you're not dealing well with. So making a ton of changes at once. So just focusing on one thing. What is one thing you can do today to change your health and elevate your state of well-being? It doesn't have to be all or nothing. It doesn't have to be perfect. I don't ever have a perfect day. There's always something I feel like when I went to bed, oh, I could have ate more, or I could have done a little bit less of this food, or I could have been better about my hydration, or more importantly than our physical, how is our mental, spiritual, and emotional health? Did I connect today spiritually? Did I work on my mental and emotional health, or did I just run around busy all day, stay disconnected, stay unplugged? Did I not slow down to think, to reflect, to connect, to pray? That's one of the biggest things for our health. And that, I will say, I was doing all the physical things right for a long time, but I was missing the emotional, the mental, and the spiritual healing. So it's never perfect. It's a journey. I'm still healing. My body's still not perfect. I feel so amazing every day because of the physical and the other changes that I've made. But if you're feeling overwhelmed and you're watching these videos wondering, there's no way I could do everything that, you know, she's doing, or the juicing or eating a ton of raw, you don't have to do all those things. I started from, I ate a lot of fast food. I ate a lot of junk food. I started from a really different place than where I'm at now. And I never thought that this would be my way of living. And a lot of people don't need to be doing the juicing or some of the raw foods or whatever to feel better. It's just where you're at and where your body's asking you to go, because healing can take place in 1, 2, or 3 little steps, and your body can really recover from what it's dealing with. So please know that small changes lead to really big shifts in your health. If there's just one thing, if you want to know what is one thing I can do today to, if you watch this video and none of these ideas resonate with you, reach out to me. We can chat and we'll get you started in the right direction. And keep in mind that healing is never linear. I got worse before I got better. There's still days that I'm like, dang it, I don't feel that great today. But I know once I get up, I do my morning routine, I do my spiritual practices, I pray and I journal and I connect, and then I get my juices in and some of my living foods, I'm gonna feel so much better. So stay hopeful for your health and know that one little change, whatever one little thing you do today, is going to make a big difference in your health for tomorrow, and imagine where you'll be at in a year from now. So if you have any questions, reach out. I'd love to talk to you, and stay tuned for next week. We'll do more new juice recipes and go from there. Thanks.